Have you ever felt like your life is falling apart, with everything you've worked for crumbling down around you? During times of hardship and heartache, it's easy to feel hopeless and alone. But fear not, for there is a divine power that specializes in taking the broken pieces of our lives and weaving them into something far greater than we could have ever imagined. This is the power of restoration, a divine promise from a God who can rebuild and restore even the most shattered lives. Embark on an inspiring journey as we uncover the stories of those who have risen from the ashes. Learn the secrets to unwavering faith in the face of adversity and experience the transformative power of God's love and grace. Your life may be far from over. In fact, this may be just the beginning of a new chapter filled with hope, restoration, and God's abundant blessings. Instead of succumbing to worry and sadness, recognize that God is more than abundantly able to restore and rebuild what you have lost. He can take what's been ruined and cause it to shine like the wonder that it is and was always meant to be. And much more, He has the power to lift you up and place you back on the mountain of prosperity and strength in God. Don't panic, your life is far from over. In fact, your current situation is an opportunity for God to prove Himself again. The main thing that's required of you at this point is unwavering faith and patience. Put your trust in God, cast your cares upon the Lord, and ask Him to rebuild that thing or aspect of your life that's broken. He will hear your prayers and answer you. God never disappoints, and He has the power to rebuild and restore even the most broken and damaged parts of our lives. When we experience troubles and hardships in life, it can feel like we are being brought to permanent ruin and irrelevance. Evil forces of the spirit realm may try to jeopardize our destiny, but we must remember that God is always with us and has the ability to turn things around. To rebuild or restore something means to bring it back to its original state of beauty and effectiveness. It can be a physical structure that has deteriorated or become non-existent, or it can be the glory that something once had that has since evaporated or become empty. Despite what may seem like impossible circumstances, we must strengthen our minds and trust in God's ability to rebuild and restore. God has the power to make a way where there seemed to be none. In the book of Ezekiel, chapter 36, verse 11, it says, "And I will multiply upon you man and beast, and they shall increase and be fruitful. And I will cause you to be inhabited according to your former estate, and I will do better for you than at your beginnings. And you shall now understand and realize that I am the Lord, the sovereign ruler who calls forth loyalty and obedient service." When God restores, He doesn't just bring us back to our former state. He surpasses it and blesses us even more abundantly. We must have faith in His ability to transform our lives and turn our sorrows into joy. So, if you're feeling broken and discouraged, don't lose hope. Trust in God's power to rebuild and restore. Ask Him to help you through your struggles and have faith that He will never leave you nor forsake you. He is the sovereign ruler who can turn your trials into triumphs and bring you to a place of satisfaction and fulfillment. The divine nature of God's restoration is such that He is able to breathe life into areas of our lives that seem to be lifeless, bringing about a restoration that surpasses our wildest expectations. Even when life's trials and tribulations leave us feeling like we're in ruins, in God's hands, these ruins become the foundation for a magnificent new structure. God's restoration is never just a simple repair job. It is an elevation, a transformation into something far greater than what it was before. God is always willing and ready to restore those who have experienced depreciation or have regressed backward from the place of power, authority, and abundance. However, one of the things that often cripple the faith of people in need of restoration is fear and the absence of hope and faith in the restoring power of God. Even when they claim to believe in God, they may not believe in themselves, and their attitude may reflect their tacit willingness to give up and continue living in their current state of backwardness and ruin. As believers, we must understand that our journey in life is continuous and must be continually filled with the wonders of God, which make us testimonies of his faithfulness even to those in the world who need to be saved. We must be willing to go through the journey or process of rebuilding and restoring, casting our fears and doubts aside and putting our trust in God's ability to elevate and transform our lives into something greater. The key is to have a burning desire to do what brings glory to our Father in heaven. Although the process may seem burdensome and complicated, we must have the zeal to allow God to glorify himself in our lives. Nehemiah exemplified this zeal when he recognized the shame and disgrace associated with the ruined walls of Jerusalem. He used his position to do something about it. The Babylonian captivity had severely affected the children of Israel, and they faced destruction and exile. Their infrastructures and walls were heavily damaged, and a city with broken walls revealed defeated people. The Jews who had returned to their homeland lived in unsafe conditions and humiliation because they resided in an immensely destroyed city. However, it's important to remember that God's love and mercy are limitless, and his power knows no bounds. He offers his children the strength and courage to overcome their trials and tribulations, rise from the ruins, and rebuild their lives with renewed hope and faith. We must keep our eyes fixed on God, lean on his understanding, and trust in his plan for us. No matter how dire the circumstances may seem, God's promise of restoration still stands. But restoration is not a passive process. It requires our active participation. We must be willing to surrender our fears, doubts, and insecurities to God and allow him to work his magic in our lives. We must be willing to take action towards restoration, to put in the work and effort required to rebuild our lives. This may involve making difficult choices, facing challenges, and stepping out of our comfort zones. But with God on our side, we can overcome any obstacle and achieve a restoration that surpasses our wildest expectations. In the book of Nehemiah, we see how God used a man with a burning desire to restore the walls of Jerusalem and bring his people out of ruin. Nehemiah faced opposition and challenges at every turn, but he remained steadfast in his faith and his dedication to the task at hand. Through his leadership and the help of his fellow Israelites, the walls were rebuilt and the city was restored to its former glory. Likewise, we must have a burning desire to do the most for God, even when the task seems daunting or overwhelming. We must be willing to step out in faith, trusting in God's strength and guidance to see us through. And when we do, we can be sure that God will use our efforts for his glory and our ultimate restoration. So let us take heart and have courage, knowing that with God's help, we can rebuild our lives, restore what has been lost, and achieve a future that exceeds our wildest dreams. May we always keep our eyes fixed on God and remain steadfast in our faith, knowing that he will never leave us or forsake us. To persevere through trials and remain steadfast in faith requires hard work and dedication. Just like a phoenix rising from its ashes, we too can emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient from our struggles, shining brightly with the glory of God's love and grace. In the book of Nehemiah, chapter 2 verse 20, it says, "Then I answered them and said to them, The God of heaven will prosper us, therefore we his servants will arise and build, but you have no heritage or right or memorial in Jerusalem." Nehemiah had faith in God's readiness to rebuild and restore that which was broken. He exercised his faith towards rebuilding the ruined walls of Jerusalem. Believers can learn from Nehemiah's example of perseverance and restoration. Even when it's uncomfortable and people around you are discouraging you, there must be a firm resolve to believe in God and take progressive action towards rebuilding in the light of his wisdom. Another good example of perseverance and restoration is Job. He was a man of wealth and substance who lost everything: his children, his servants, and his prized possessions. But he never gave up on God. Instead, he sought to discover him regardless of the circumstances. Job's story also properly depicts God's abundance in restoration. He persevered despite many instances of his loved ones telling him to curse God and hopelessly go the way of death. He triumphed, and God replenished him much more abundantly than his previous glory. The Lord exceedingly blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the first, and that is what restoration is all about. Believers can draw inspiration from Nehemiah and Job to face their own trials and tribulations with faith and perseverance. Through their examples, we can learn that restoration is not only possible, but that it is also a testament to God's grace and mercy. Just like Nehemiah, we must have faith in God's readiness to rebuild and restore that which is broken. We must also be willing to take action and put in the hard work required to rebuild what has been lost or damaged. And just like Job, we must maintain our faith and belief in God even in the face of great loss and suffering. We must persevere through the trials and tribulations, trusting that God will restore us more abundantly than we could ever imagine. In all our struggles, we must remember that restoration is not a passive process. We must actively participate and surrender our fears, doubts, and insecurities to God. We must trust in His plan for us and keep our eyes fixed on Him. Through our faith and perseverance, we too can rise from the ashes of our struggles like a phoenix, shining brightly with the glory of God's love and grace. And through our restoration, we can become a testimony of His faithfulness to those around us who need to be saved. In life, we may face situations where everything seems to fall apart. These moments test our faith the most, as we are challenged to trust in God's plan. Like Job, we must hold on steadfastly to our faith, even when it feels like everything is working against us. In the end, just as God restored Job, He promises to restore us, blessing us abundantly more than before. This promise of restoration is what we hold on to as believers. Not only will something broken be rebuilt, but it will be made even better than it was before. God is capable of making things better, no matter how broken our lives may seem. We must always believe in God for restoration, as He will give us the strength and grace for rebuilding and intervening to make things better. God, in His miraculous ways, can change the status quo. We should pray and ask Him in faith to rebuild and restore things that are broken. The book of Ephesians chapter 3 verse 20 says, "Now unto Him who is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that we can ask or think, according to the power that works in us." God has sent us His word and has assured us of His divine restoration. When life beats us down and we feel broken, we must remember that we serve a God who specializes in restoration. He takes our fragments and with divine craftsmanship weaves them into a tapestry of grace and beauty. As children of God, we can rest in the assurance that our current trials are not the end of our story. Instead, they are stepping stones to a new chapter filled with hope, restoration, and God's abundant blessings. The book of Joel chapter 2 verses 25 through 26 says, "And I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten, the cankerworm and the caterpillar and the palmer were my great army which I sent among you. And ye shall eat in plenty and be satisfied, and praise the name of the Lord your God, that hath dealt wondrously with you, and my people shall never be ashamed." God has given us His assurance that He will take what is broken and put it back together again, making it even better than before. He will take those broken and shattered pieces in our lives, build them together with His love, and make them extremely strong in the areas where they were once weak. God has promised us abundant restoration, and we must benefit from it by being steadfast in our faith. No matter our past or struggles, we should not be afraid, anxious, or hopeless. God will restore and rebuild our lives. Our journey, like the refining of gold, is laden with trials and tribulations. However, it is through these trials that our faith is refined, our character is built, and our relationship with God is deepened. To excel in life, we must strive to be valuable. Being valuable means possessing the ability to offer solutions that are both needed and useful within the context of society. The Bible says, "Sayest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings, he shall not stand before mean men." To truly excel, we must not only be valuable but exceptionally so. The concept of the kingdom operates on a reward system, and it's important to understand this. Our value is indicated by who seeks us out and the extent of inconvenience others are willing to endure to gain access to us. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. Even though he didn't gain much for interpreting the baker's dream, his actions ultimately led him to the palace. Similarly, David received great rewards for defeating Goliath. Jesus is worshipped as the King of Kings because of his unparalleled value. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and turn on the notification to get notified anytime we post a new video. God bless you.